Welcome to Breakfast with Spaniels with Dr. Judy Morgan.
Good morning.
Remember, you can purchase all of Dr. Morgan's products at her website at www.drjudymorgan.com. Now it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Looks like we're very slow to go live this morning, so I don't know if Facebook is cooperating, but we'll give some people a few minutes to hop on. So those of you that saw, Jasmine is home. She's talked about it the last few days, but she's doing very well. She was actually had enough energy to frolic through the field yesterday, and she was Cupcake, the other mini Henny, and her were grooming each other. It was so sweet to see her back home with her equine family. So I had two topics that I wasn't sure which one I wanted to talk about this morning, and so I've been trying to get a hold of my mom all morning to ask which one she preferred I talk about. And so finally I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go live. I know she's super busy. And so I picked the topic today to talk about, which is oxidative stress and antioxidants. And the other topic I was going to talk about is my horse, Max, who we did a culture and sensitivity to see what was going on with his upper respiratory infection. And so I picked this topic, and then she just texted me back as I was going live and was like, why don't you talk about Max? So, whoopsies. Anyway, I'll talk about Max next time I'm live, but we had a very interesting discovery from his culture and sensitivity, so I definitely do want to talk about that. And to catch you up from a few weeks ago, for those of you that have been following with my dog Panda, that was very, very itchy and came back with all sorts of food allergies. We have been now feeding her we basically stripped away all the supplements except for the Solaris mushroom powder and vitamin C, which I'm going to talk about today. And we completely changed her diet to try to take out all of the allergens that we found on the Nutriscan test. And she actually is doing better. She's still itching a little bit, mostly her paws. So I think that part of that might be a little bit environmental. But overall, her total amount of itching and the aggression she was using to itch her skin has vastly improved. So for those of you that were on the fence about the Nutriscan testing, we had a very positive experience and outcome with that as far as our dog Panda. So I'm going to write a blog on it as well, so that way those of you that aren't as familiar with the testing, you can go ahead and get more information on it. And we do have a discount code for Nutriscan testing, which is Judy10. So I'm going to paste that for anyone that's curious. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about oxidative stress and vitamin C, which we have actually talked about this topic a little bit before, but a few weeks ago, I had mentioned when my mom was live, I typed in the comments something about how I had my dogs on vitamin C, and a few others of you jumped in and said, oh, I have my dog on vitamin C as well. And she was like, maybe I'm missing out on something. My pets aren't on vitamin C. Gwen, why don't you do some more research about it so that we can talk about it more? So basically, to start at the beginning, there are two types of vitamins for dogs and cats. There's kind of the fat soluble category, and there's the water soluble category. So vitamin C is considered a water soluble vitamin, and it actually acts as an antioxidant. So in the body, there are these things called free radicals, and basically they're highly reactive, and you want to balance the free radicals and the antioxidants because they help stabilize. So when you don't have enough antioxidants for the amount of free radicals in the body, that's when you get something that's called oxidative stress. And oxidative stress can happen from quite a few things. It can be emotional stress. It could be age as our pets get older. It could be a poor diet, different lifestyle choices that our pets are exposed to. Of course, exposure to chemicals and toxins are a big one that provide oxidative stress sources for our pets. And also amount of physical activity. So our dogs that are the athletes that do agility and things like that, of course, exercise is really great for them, but being an athlete, you are putting more oxidative stress on your body. So that's just something to be aware of. An interesting fact about vitamin C for humans versus dogs and cats, dogs and cats can actually produce their own vitamin C within their body. So under optimal conditions, there really is no need to supplement vitamin C. If you have a young, healthy puppy, hasn't been exposed to a lot of those sources of oxidative stress that I mentioned, there's a very low chance that they probably would need vitamin C supplementation. So that's something to keep in mind, that humans cannot produce, we can't produce our own vitamin C, but dogs and cats can. So, some things that vitamin C is useful for, because it does have these antioxidant properties. We see a lot with immune system damage as they get older. Age can play into oxidative stress. Arthritis, cancer, infections, excessive stress levels, or like those high activity levels, like I mentioned, our dogs and I guess cats. There are some cat athletes out there. Mine are not cat athletes, but I know there are some out there. And so for some of these cases, vitamin C can actually be very beneficial. So, and there has been some use in inflammatory conditions like allergies as well. So for my two dogs, the two things, Panda, who's my chronically itchy dog, she is considered a senior dog. She is 9 years old, and with all of her allergies and inflammation, I wanted to supplement with vitamin C for her because it felt like it had quite a few benefits that she could need right now with her current situation. And Mila, of course, my dog Mila, she does have, she's had early onset arthritis from a very, very young age, so we are always trying to support that. And she also did have cancer, so she has kind of two things that when I saw kind of the benefits of vitamin C and the uses, I said, okay, yeah, Mila, I definitely want to supplement vitamin C with her. So there are some other, when I was doing research on vitamin C, if you work with a strictly holistic practitioner, they may recommend vitamin C for a wider range of cases that are less research backed. So there are some practitioners that do advocate for using vitamin C in more viral cases. So there's one practitioner that was talking about using it with like feline leukemia, and I think maybe FIV as well. There's less data and research supporting that, but there are some holistic practitioners out there that do use it for those purposes. So as far as vitamin C supplementation, if you think that your pet might fall into the category of experiencing some level of oxidative stress where an antioxidant like vitamin C may be helpful for them, there are, of course, natural whole food sources of vitamin C. So people think a lot of citrus. However, dark leafy greens, peppers, green beans, sweet potatoes, zucchini, all of them are pretty high and great sources of vitamin C. With fruits and vegetables for our dogs and cats, Cats really are obligate carnivores, so we try to keep the amount of non-meat sources in their diet relatively low. It's a little bit higher for our dogs, but they do need to be broken down in some way. The cell walls of the plants need to be broken down slightly, so that it means either finely chopped or gently cooked. The one downside with vitamin C is it's pretty sensitive to high temperatures. So when you cook these whole food sources, if you choose to gently cook it, vitamin C can degrade relatively easily when cooked. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you do want to use a supplement, so like for me, I do use a supplement with my 2 dogs currently. We like to use the RX Vitamins Bio C, which is in the link. It's a sodium ascorbate product, and it's called a mineral salt, the sodium ascorbate. And the reason why we like that as far as a source of vitamin C is because it is a neutral pH. So the urine pH, we generally like to see it between 6.5 and 7.5. And some sources of vitamin C, because they are more acidic, can actually alter the pH of the urine. So with the supplement BioC, it is a neutral pH. It also has the lemon bioflavonoids, which help with the absorption of vitamin C. So that's our preferred supplement as far as BioC, as far as the vitamin C is BioC, just because it is a neutral pH and it is a more efficiently absorbed form of vitamin C for our dogs and cats. And that's a powder. It has the directions on there, but basically based on your pet's body weight, that's how much you put in their food. There are other forms of vitamin C. Very common forms are ascorbic acid supplements, and they are an okay source of vitamin C. So if you're using an ascorbic acid supplement, there's likely nothing wrong with it if it's specifically for pets. However, it is important to keep in mind that it is an acidic supplement, so it can impact the acidity of your pet's urine. So the ascorbic acid supplement that I linked is a liquid. It's specifically for cats by the 2 Crazy Cat Ladies. If you do have a cat that has a lower urine pH, I would not recommend using an ascorbic acid supplement, just because it could lower your cat's urine pH even further. However, if you have a cat or dog that has a higher urine pH or had struvite crystals, any sorts of issues related to a higher pH urine, the ascorbic acid not only is a source of vitamin C, but it will help lower the urine pH as well. So you kind of get a 2-for-1 deal if your pet is in that subsection where they do need the pH of their urine lowered, as well as a vitamin C supplement. So that's just important to keep in mind. With the BioC, you don't have to worry about that because it is a neutral pH, but if you use an ascorbic acid supplement, just keep in mind that it can change the urine pH in addition to being a source of vitamin C. All right, and last but not least, something that I found when I was researching this that I thought was really interesting is that for cancer cases, vitamin C can be administered in much higher doses intravenously, which I found very fascinating. So when you're giving vitamin C orally, there's only so much that can be absorbed through the digestive tract. And so you want to be careful if you are going to start a vitamin C supplement that you keep an eye out for any type of GI upset, like diarrhea is very common. And that means basically that you have pushed the limits of how much vitamin C your pet's digestive tract can handle. If you're following the instructions on the supplements that I mentioned, most likely that won't be an issue, but we always recommend starting slow and making sure that there is no GI upset seen. So intravenously, it can be the plasma concentrations can be up to 25 times higher when you do vitamin C intravenously. So they started doing this for cancer cases, and there's actually been, I don't have the research studies pulled up, but they've done research in both animals and people for vitamin C IV therapy. And it's pretty difficult to find for animals. I have found a few practitioners just searching on the internet that actually do the IV therapy for pets. So if you do have a pet with cancer, it might be worth investigating further. But the really cool thing is that they found that when you do IV vitamin C, it is selectively toxic. So chemotherapy is just plain old toxic, and so it could cause a lot of secondary damage, especially to the immune system and things like that, versus they saw with the IV vitamin C therapy, it really targets the cancer cells, which is amazing. And if you are using chemotherapy, they found that when you combine IV vitamin C therapy and chemotherapy, that the two worked pretty synergistically, and actually they still saw some benefits from adding the IV vitamin C therapy in with the chemotherapy. So I thought that was really, really interesting. There have been some other practitioners that do this IV vitamin C therapy that have used it for other severe applications. I saw one that used it for pets that were bitten by snakes, poisonous snakes. There also was a case of severe sepsis where they added on IV vitamin C therapy. So those are more one-offs. There's not as much data to back those up, but it's really interesting to see in the future if IV vitamin C therapy is used more commonly, if there are other applications that may be promising as well. All right. One thing I did want to mention as well is there was a study, I'm going to forget where it was from. Actually, I think it was Duke University, which is really close to where we are. They tested out vitamin C usage on guinea pigs, actual guinea pigs, and they did basically like a low, moderate, and high dose of vitamin C, and they were tracking arthritis. And so they saw in the short term, the really high doses of vitamin C provided some benefits for the guinea pigs. However, long term, the high dose of vitamin C actually made their osteoarthritis worse. So that is just something to keep in mind, where vitamin C, though if you give excess, it's relatively safe. They might get some diarrhea, but because it's a water-soluble vitamin, most of it's going to be urinated out, any excess. However, because of that one study, you just want to exercise with caution that, we don't recommend over-supplementing vitamin C and only using it in cases where your pet is experiencing oxidative stress or those types of ailments that I was talking about in the beginning. So again, make sure that you're following, if you're using the two supplements that I mentioned, just make sure that you're following the administration instructions, keeping an eye out for any type of GI upset or, GI upset is the main thing you would look out for. But if you see any other weird symptoms, of course, stop. But it does look very, very promising as far as using vitamin C for quite a few really big ailments that are plaguing our pets. And of course, I personally love vitamin C. I take it every day. All right. Let me see if there's any comments. A good daily amount of vitamin C for a healthy animal. Yeah, so I would say if you have a healthy animal that does not have exposure to oxidative stress, like I said, this wouldn't be something that I would want to over supplement, even though it is relatively safe, but just because they have had some research showing that it could potentially cause some negative effects long term, like with the arthritis study. But what we do with the BioC, let me see, I think it's, yeah, so for the ARX Vitamins BioC, they recommend about 500 milligrams for every 20 pounds of body weight. So that's what we do for our pets. We follow the BioC administration instructions. And like I said, this is something that under optimal conditions your pet should not need. They can produce their own vitamin C. They're not like humans where we can't. This is really in cases of, like I said, the ratio of your antioxidants and your free radicals is off, and so your pet is experiencing some type of oxidative stress. I personally give my pets BioC twice daily. Yes, I give both Panda and Mila vitamin C. And it's probably not something that I will give them long term. I'm going to do some more research to see if there is benefit in like rotating on and off. So that's something that I'm still looking to discover more about. And when supplementing, can you get enough through whole foods? Yeah, there's plenty of whole food sources, like I mentioned, your dark leafy greens, your bell peppers, citrus. Citrus is a little hard on pets. We don't typically recommend adding those to your diets. The only thing to keep in mind is if you are a raw feeder and you're processing your fruits and vegetables by finely chopping them, then that's great, but just be aware that vitamin C is pretty heat sensitive, so if you gently cook your pet's food, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but in the context of vitamin C, it could potentially degrade some of the vitamin C. Okay. Should I give RX vitamins plus senior formula plus BioC? Well, I would say that really depends. So your RX vitamins, I'm assuming you're referring to the essentials and the senior formula. They don't have any vitamin C in there. I don't think. I'd have to double check on essentials, but it's probably, if there is any, it's a very low amount. Because like I said, this is something that our pets can produce. So you would only want to supplement vitamin C if your pet is experiencing oxidative stress. So like old age, a lot of emotional distress, they have a poor diet, exposure to a lot of chemicals, toxins, or really high physical activity. Okay. Is it better to get these nutrients from food or supplements? In general, we really try to get nutrients from whole foods, because at the end of the day, you can't, she actually just posted about that this morning, you can't out supplement a bad diet. So I think if you can get it from whole food sources, absolutely, that would be my number one choice. But for me, like I'm feeding a commercial pet food right now, and I know that it's not going to have additional vitamin C in it, so I'm using a supplement. Someone was asking about ozone therapy. I'm actually not super familiar on that, but that's one of my research topics, because I got into the CO2 therapy and it took me down a rabbit hole. All right. Okay, I think that's it for today. Let me pull up some music, and we will, I should mention, if I went through all of this quickly, we also are going to post a blog next week on this topic, oxidative stress and vitamin C. So you can also wait to read the full blog article. Again, this is not something that is typically like an urgent situation where your pet needs like emergency vitamin C typically, but so you can always wait as well for the full blog to come out next week, which goes into detail of kind of the different cases that this may be applicable for. All right, let me find some music. And for those of you asking about my vacation, it was awesome. It definitely, I do not feel more rested. I feel more exhausted from taking a 1-year-old to the beach, but she had an absolute blast. And it was so fun, and just her creating memories was really, really special. So thank you for asking. All right. I hope you all have a wonderful day.